at 5:08 p.m. on August 6th. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioners Gershenson? Gershenson? Okay. Gingell?
Here.
Hoffman?
Here.
Jackson?
Here.
Kokendorfer?
Here.
Howell?
Here.
Kuhn?
Yes, here.
Long?
Here.
Lubes?
Here.
Markham?
Here.
McGilvray?
Here.
Middleton?
Here.
Miller?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
Howell?
Here.
Quarles?
Here. There's another one that's on there.
Biz?
I would think it would be.
If you're mute, if you're not
Here.
on mute, mute yourself unless you're speaking.
I'll check out the other.
Cobb?
Here.
Weipert?
Here.
Woodward?
Here.
Zach?
Here.
Okay, and Gershenson, are you here?
I'm here. Thank you.
Okay, yep, thanks. Okay. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. It's going good to see all of you here. I'm refreshing the agenda myself. So make sure I have the most updated version here. The packet. And so if you haven't done so, if you could refresh your agenda so that I know there's some amendments and some other things that are brought forward that you'll have it. This will bring us to the invocation in today's meeting. The Honorable Tom Middleton will lead us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and I direct yourself to the flag behind Commissioner Weipert. Okay, Commissioner Middleton.
Thank you, Chairman. Let us pray. Bless this meeting today, all those present as well as the lives of those we will encounter afterwards. Ready us to make every moment count. Keep everyone safe. Amen.
Amen.
Our Pledge of Allegiance, everyone rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Middleton, for the invocation and leading us to the pledge. This will bring us to the approval of the minutes. We've got two sets of minutes. We've got the July 2nd and the July 15th minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner Kowal. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say nay. Let the record reflect that the minutes of July 2nd, July 15th have been approved unanimously. That will bring us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Moved by Commissioner McGilvray, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. Any discussion on the agenda? Commissioner Tao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had a problem reading the packet today because there's over 200 pages, I think, in it. I'm not certain how many, and I got it at 4:55 or 4:45, something like that. So consequently, I couldn't read the entire packet today, which I feel badly about. So if you could please remove B on the consent agenda and finance. I don't know what that's all about. I'd appreciate it, please.
So you're requesting to move B to the regular agenda under finance?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Sure, certainly. Just without
Okay.
objection. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further discussion? And per our board rules and Robert's rules, that move, any commissioner can request to move something off the consent agenda to the regular agenda. So we'll do that. So without any further discussion, all in favor of approving the agenda as requested, and that includes item B, which is facilities planning, engineering, health and human services, Honor Health Community, North Oakland Health Center, and South Oakland Health Center revitalization project. That will be on the regular agenda under finance. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. I'll let the record reflect that the agenda is approved with moving items B under finance to the regular agenda. All right, that moves us to communications. We got a couple presentations here, and we've got a couple guests that are here to give those presentations. I appreciate that. First, I'm going to ask the clerk to see if there are any communications the board's received. We'll read those first, and then we'll move into the two presentations that we have.
Yes, and I'll read them. Yes, we do. I will read them. So actually, the first one made me a little sad. It's from Clara Boer. Greetings, everyone. I just want to let you know that I provided my resignation from the Oakland County Library Board to Chris today to share with the commissioners. As of July 29, 2020, I will no longer be a resident of Oakland County. I'm closing on my home next week and moving to Ann Arbor. I was pleased that my home sold in one day with two parties bidding each other up, even with COVID-19. While I'm excited about the move, I don't look forward to a much longer drive into West Bloomfield for work. I have thoroughly enjoyed my time on the library board working with all of you. We have had challenging times addressing the downsizing of the library throughout the past several years, but worked through it. The reorganization of the library through our teamwork allows it to remain a value asset. Best wishes to everyone. Regards, Clara. Next, to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, please accept this letter as notification that I've exercised the authority granted under the board rules, allowing the chairperson in regards to the purposes of submitting for a submission deadline, shall be granted authority to approve grant applications in excess of $250,000. The Oakland County Health and Human Services Department Health Division has prepared a fiscal year 2021 local health department comprehensive agreement grant application on behalf of Oakland County in the amount of $11,583,763. The grant application deadline was August 6, 2020. Okay. Due to the changes in the board's grant submission process and the board calendar, it was not possible for the department to submit the application for full board consideration in accordance with their normal procedures. The application was reviewed by all appropriate county departments. I have authorized the submission of this grant application. Sincerely, David T. Woodward, Chairman of Oakland County Board of Commissioners. And the final one, to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, please accept this letter's notification that I've exercised the authority granted under the board rules. Again, the same thing with the grant application in excess of $250,000. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office has prepared a fiscal year 2020 DNA capacity enhancement for backlog reduction CEBR program grant application on behalf of Oakland County in the amount of $399,602. The grant application deadline is August 7th. Due to the changes in the board's grant submission process and the board calendar, it's not possible for the department to submit the application for full board consideration in accordance with the normal procedures. The application was reviewed by all appropriate county departments. I've authorized the submission of this grant application. Sincerely, David T. Woodward, Chairman, Oakland County Board of Commissioners. I tried to do that quick.
And that'll be it. Okay. Can we get a motion to receive those communications? Moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Long. All in favor of receiving those communications read by the clerk, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. All of the communications are received. And that brings us to the two presentations tonight. And I will start off with the Oakland County Public Transit Authority. We have Melanie Piana, who also is the mayor of Ferndale, to give us an update on what OCPTA has been focused on and working on. And they've done a tremendous amount of work in a fairly short period of time. As well as SMART, we've got the Deputy General Manager, Robert Kramer, with us. And so I will hand the presentation, the floor over to you, Madam Chair of the Oakland County Public Transit Authority. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Board of Commissioners. I'm Melanie Piana, I'm the chair, and joining me also in the meeting is Marie Donegan, who is the secretary of the authority. And the deputy director of SMART tonight, Robert Kramer, is going to be covering the second half of our presentation. And I just want to say I'm just very honored that you've welcomed us to present to you tonight from the OCPTA. It's my understanding it's been a while since the OCPTA has been in front of the Board of Commissioners. And so on behalf of our authority, we're happy to be here. So why are we here? First, I want to introduce the authority members, the volunteers who've signed up to serve the authority, to review the administrative priorities since 2019 and how that is forging a path for the OCPTA to move forward to become a stronger partner with SMART on behalf of Oakland County on public transportation. And then Robert will take you through how SMART is responding to the pandemic and their operational enhancements. So we're going to go back to the beginning of the OCPTA and their articles of incorporation. And the purpose of the OCPTA is really to operate a public transportation system. And item B, the plan, promote, finance, there are many powers granted to the authority for which the authority can exercise. For the last 30 years, since 1996, when the authority was created and a SMART contract was made, the OCPTA chose to and that is very typical of many authorities or services through SMART across the US. And so that is what we're taking a look at. Is exploring how to exercise more of its powers to become that stronger partner. And I'm going to be going into that a little bit later in the presentation. So here are your authority members. The authority is comprised of 5
We're losing her.
So Melanie, I think you're breaking up, and I don't know if it's
permanent members and 2 alternate members, and the Oakland County Treasurer is a non-voting member. January 9th, 2000. It says I'm having a slow network connection.
Melanie, if you take off your camera right now, you could probably be heard better there.
right. Your internet connection will be stronger. As much as we love seeing you present it, we want to make sure we hear you.
So you don't see me, but
I don't see you, but I see the presentation.
okay. Thank you for those suggestions. Yes. So I just noticed a slight error in my presentation. The appointed members for January 2020 should be January 2019 or 2019. So you have a relatively new board with the longest serving member from November 2017. And we are all dedicated to public transportation for Oakland County. Okay, I'm trying to advance.
It's not.
Oops, there we go.
Here it goes.
Okay, so here are OCPTA opt-in communities. We're 23 or 39% of the county who are your opt-in. And they've been opting in since 1996, with a couple of the cities adding about a decade later. And between these 23 cities, the authority is allowed to levy up to 1 mil, and a 1 mil equals $33 million, but we are subject to Headley rollback like all cities and public entities. And so we're really at 32 million, just shy of 33, with almost a $500,000 rollback. When the authority was created, from the millage raised, about 30,000 was allocated to the OCPTA for administrative expenses. And in 1997, that was increased to $35,000, and that's been the same price for since then. So When I took my seat in 2019, January, along with Marie, we really wanted to focus in on transparency and enhancing administrative review. What I found when I came onto the board or the authority was that a big shift needed to change, and that the legal counsel that had been serving the authority for over 20 years had been preparing for all the authority meetings. And I'm pleased to say that we are managed and supported by the Board of Commissioners staff. Megan Sellers has been stellar helping us prepare for our meetings, and this has saved the authority legal fees. So it was a great change for us to make sure that we can focus on redoing our contracts going forward and spending more money on legal fees. So we realized there was no signed contract with the legal vendor, and there hadn't been one for at least over 5 years. And early on, we launched a competitive RFP process that follows Oakland County's contract procedures, and we used the contract communications tools through the staff to make sure that everybody, the legal firms that were qualified, could apply. We interviewed 3 firms and ultimately selected Dickinson Wright, and George Butler from Dickinson Wright is our legal counsel. And he's been phenomenal, and they have a ton of experience with working with public transit agencies and public entities in general. As part of our review, we also realized that the legal vendor that had been serving the authority had been holding on to and storing all of the public authorities documents since the inception of the authority. So we had the documents transferred to the Board of Commissioners, and they're now on site and being scanned and properly documented procedures. We also wanted to make sure that the OCPTA documents were accessible to the public, and requested that a web page be dedicated to our appropriate documentation. So the articles of incorporations, bylaws, contracts, our annual budget, and meeting minutes are all there. We also live under the same web page with the DIA and the Detroit Zoo, so appropriately partnered with the regional authorities. And then we started going through the articles of incorporation, and we were uncertain about which one was the cleanest copy that we should be following. And one of the reasons we were uncertain is that many amendments over time, particularly in the late 90s and early 2000s, some of the amendments were handwritten into the documents, and we weren't certain that they had made it into the latest version that the authority had been following. So we had Pamela Withington, the committee operations coordinator in Oakland County. She reviewed the work of our legal counsel, so there was a double check process. Dickinson Wright reviewed all the versions to see what was the cleanest copy, and then we had a double check from the county perform the same actions so that the Board of Commissioners could be certain which one was the cleanest the authority was following. In addition, we also discovered that as part of the OCPTA and SMART annual contracts, that there was an exhibit included in the contracts, performance audits, but for reasons where the current members are unclear about, the performance audits were never actually delivered. So these are some of the things that we're taking a look at as part of updating this OCPTA SMART contract. The contract is basically for, I think, 2 years, and it ends June 30th. And we've extended it this year to September 30th to give us more time from the pandemic to negotiate with SMART on updating the contract. And one big change from the contract before is that we're moving from sort of a pass-through rubber stamp type of approach to approving the contract to a more active partner with them. And I'm going to go through how we're setting up to move in that direction. And I think it's just taking a minute to advance. Or maybe not. Okay, so there have been 23 amendments to the original 1996 SMART contract, and one area that we really wanted to start on a new foot was creating a mission statement. And we decided as the authority that we needed a working group to do mission statement development, and we had the chair, myself, and Marie Donegan be part of this work group who met 2 or 3 times to talk about a mission statement. And why a mission and statement is important is because this is standard practice for many authorities in Michigan, but also throughout the United States. And we wanted to come in compliance with that type of approach to setting a vision for transit on behalf of Oakland County. So Marie and I did a lot of the legwork before the work group started, and we benchmarked and did research on all these entities to see what elements they had in their mission statements to help build the one for the OCPTA. And I believe you have the full mission statement in front of you. And really, we felt the OCPTA needed a statement beyond the articles of incorporations of its purposes, so that people understood what this organization is designed to do. And we really are about helping inform and guide transit planning and implementation in Oakland County and in coordination with the region. And so the OCPTA is responsible on behalf of the opt-in communities of delivering transit service to the communities. And we have chosen SMART to be our partner to deliver the highest service possible. We also decided that we needed a unifying sort of network or framework. So we really needed to build broad-based collaborations across the communities of the opt-in communities and the counties that are part of SMART to blend the transit and mobility options. And so public transit or just bus transit in which SMART provides, the world of mobility and transportation is rapidly evolving, and felt that the unifying framework for the mission statement had to capture that on behalf of the county and through the OCPTA. And while I'm not going to read the whole mission statement for you, you can do that on your own. The work group and the authority felt like the value statement of what we were about, integrity, transparency, accountability, responsiveness, and a new one was equity, so that everybody has access to appropriate bus services within Oakland County. And that the principles driving us forward are accountability, inclusivity, health and connected communities, and environmental stewardship. And when people are able to take the bus in a timely, easy, and accessible manner, we're connecting people to jobs, their communities, to parks, and that creates a healthy county, healthy communities, healthy individuals, and healthy families. And really, it's about environmental stewardship, because when more people take the bus or public transit, you're taking more people out of a single-use car, which is a high emitter of carbon dioxide. So this is really about connections, collaborations, choices, flexibility, and responsiveness. And that's what the OCTPTA wants to be known for on behalf of the opt-in communities while representing Oakland County through its contract with SMART. So our pathway forward, now that we have the mission statement, we have right-sized administrative procedures, and we're being as transparent as possible at this time, and there's more to do. We are moving forward with negotiations, with contract negotiations with SMART, and we are using the mission statement to guide the decision-making. We are putting more contextual oversight and management, and we desire to increase communications with the opt-in communities. Since we are the entity receiving the millage dollars, they have not heard from the OCPTA about the performance of those millage dollars from the OCPTA. And we think that they deserve to hear from us. And then, of course, we think the Board of Commissioners also needs to hear from us on an annual basis and or as needed per request by the BOC. So, but right now we're starting with annual. So we're moving from becoming this pass-through entity of just regularly approving the contract when the contract's up for renewal to becoming a stronger partner. And SMART has been with us every step of the way and has been an advocate as well as providing advice how to move forward with the OCPTA. So this is fantastic. So this is how we're moving toward leadership, stronger community partner, moving away from pass-through entity. And I think with that, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity. And I'm going to hand this over next to Robert Kramer to talk about SMART and how they're responding to the pandemic and the operational enhancements they are doing. If you have any questions for me or Marie at the end of this presentation, we're more than happy to answer them. Or if you would like a private conversation on another day, I'm more than happy to make space for that as well.
Thank you, Chair Piana and OCPTA member Marie Donegan for that presentation and talk about the progress you've made in a short period of time to improve transparency and accountability of these dollars. And we're very glad and as a board to have you present here. And Mr. Kramer, always glad to have you here too. And so thank you, and I'll hand the floor to you to give an update on how SMART is responding to the pandemic and give us a general update. Mr. Kramer.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair, and the commissioners. Really appreciate the opportunity to join our partners at OCPTA and give you an update on what's been going on at SMART. Really, I just want to take a second to say that I'm really proud to be part of the SMART team. We've remained open to serve those who need to get to essential jobs and fulfill those essential trips for supplies and appointments, even during the peak, the first peak of the crisis. Our drivers, our maintenance staff, all of our staff members have really been working hard to ensure operations are continuing without a hitch, all while trying to, obviously, like everyone, learn how to function in kind of our certainly changed region and world here. So very proud to be part of that. Just, Melanie touched on this. We are strong partners with OCPTA. The taxes that are collected by OCPTA that are then provided to SMART to support all of our operations in the county really are critical. Without the local support of OCPTA and the local millage dollars, obviously in Macomb and Wayne counties as well, SMART really would not be able to function. It allows us to leverage all sorts of other resources, state dollars, federal dollars. Our return on investment for every dollar in local taxes, we're able to spend about $1.70 in services across the region. And so really without those tax dollars, we would not be able to have access to those funds. And so we are obviously very interested in being part of making the transit services in Oakland County and the region the best they can be. A brief 20-second, 10-second version of SMART. Obviously, we've got the fixed route services that includes our fast service. We've also got a direct operated connector service, which is kind of a, you can call days in advance to reserve a trip from point to point. That includes our ADA required paratransit service. Then we also have community partnership program and community transit partners. And that's the map you see on the screen here that just shows just in Oakland County how we've got vehicles that we have helped attain and administer grant dollars for, all varieties of funding, support, and assistance, really for communities across Oakland County, even though the opt-in portion that's paying toward those property taxes, as Melanie mentioned, is only a portion of the county. We really do have a role in helping transportation for the whole county. And it's very important to remember that. It's something that we take very seriously as our role in the region here. And really, our goal, our charge always has been to connect people, especially to work, to school, medical appointments. And that is kind of what's keeping us going. We want to make sure we can keep people connected safely. Just real quickly, I'm going to get into some numbers here for the next minute or so. This is a graphic that I loved updating. So this is our fast service. We added it to the Woodward corridor back in January of 2018. And I was always very excited to show kind of the pre-fast numbers here at the bottom. You say each year we made a huge increase. There was a lot of new service, but it was a new type of service as well. And Woodward was our most successful of the 3 fast corridors. And you can see we were off to a great start this year with the blue category here. And then quickly in March, obviously with COVID, it took a dive. But up until that point, we were up basically 100% from before we started fast until 2 years into the program. Month over month, we were at about 100% increase, so doubling of the service on the Woodward corridor. It was really a great thing, and we're looking to the future, hoping we can get back to that. But just to kind of put things in context, there's a lot on this page, but this is showing our system-wide ridership. This is all of our routes across the system, all 3 counties. You can see the orange line here, that the green in the middle is kind of 100%. That's what we would expect to have. So you can see here in February and even the beginning of March, we were tracking anywhere between even to about 20% over our ridership from the year before. And basically in the course of about 10 days, we went from 10% over our year before ridership to almost 80% reduction from last year's ridership right in the middle of March. And that was before we had any orders in place. That was all just based on businesses and people shutting down and changing their travel patterns based on kind of that first wave of the crisis in place. We've made 4 service adjustments since then. That's the blue dashed line here. And basically that's us kind of balancing demand. Obviously we don't want to have drivers out on the road if they don't need to be, but there still have been people who need to get to these essential trips, even during the peak of the crisis. You can see the whole way there for a couple of months during the stay-at-home order, we were at about 20% of our normal weekday ridership. That includes some routes were higher, obviously. Our commuter routes have all been shut down since March. So this is really kind of the main arterial routes where most of this ridership is taking place. When the governor moved this part of the state to phase 4, that coincided with us returning some of our service. The commuter routes are still shut off. So our ridership has gone up to about 30% of our typical weekday and has held steady there basically over the last 2 months. Now on the good side, that means that we're able to manage it. We're able to make sure that people are able to socially distance to the greatest extent possible. There are cases here and there where we have buses that have some, that are getting pretty full, but we are able to send additional buses out onto the road in order to accommodate that. And so right now we're at about 60% of our regular service level, about 30% of the ridership. Again, that's averaged over the whole system. We've been doing a maximum remote work since basically March 16th. Anyone who can do any or all of their work remotely has been doing it that way. Any trips to come into the office, this is obviously for administrative support staff, has been done carefully to make sure it's the minimum extent possible. And then at the terminals, we have masks, we have signs, we have stickers, policies to really keep people, obviously most of our staff do still have to come in to do their work, whether it's the maintenance side or driving, dispatching. And so precautions have been in place there as well. Our small bus service called Connector has shown a similar trend, although those rides have started to come back a little bit more significantly. So this is by terminal here. Oakland is the orange line in this case. So we had a big drop again. This is kind of the taking seniors and disabled, especially from their homes to medical appointments, grocery store. All of that decrease came before the orders came in place. Again, this is people making decisions about how they're going to get around and what they need to go to. Since then, again, we've had kind of a very slow but steady increase to start returning that service. So our response to the crisis included very early adoption of case tracing, rear door boarding, and employee screening. I mentioned we've got over 100 staff that are working remotely for some or all of their job duties. We've been providing updates to all of our staff through a series of weekly webinars. That's to keep everybody on the same page when it comes to what's going on, answering questions, making sure we can keep connected to our staff so that we can keep serving our communities and our region effectively. We've added additional sanitization services, both at our terminals and on the buses, and also have added on-road cleanings for our maintenance crew to get out and clean the buses when they're turning, between routes or during breaks. I mentioned we made the service adjustments. We've also developed a smart COVID-19 playbook. So this is a public document. It's available on our website. And that basically lays out all of kind of the measures that we're taking, the considerations, and also who's accountable at SMART to make sure that we're staying on top of things. And really, this is intended to be a resource, not only for the public who may want to know what's going on to make sure that they can feel safe using the system, but also internally to make sure that all of our 900 employees can know what's going on, who's accountable, so that we're all following the procedures and staying safe and healthy. And then also I'll touch in a couple slides here briefly about how we're investing our share of the CARES Act funding with projects in the short and long term. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but the COVID-19 playbook is always available on our website. We trained all of our employees through a overview training video and obviously provided the manual as well. And this is a document that will evolve and be updated as policies, procedures, and realities change. So I mentioned that for safety obviously is very important at SMART, not only to keep our staff safe, but also the riding public and the communities that we're going in and out of. We have instituted daily health screenings, and this is actually consistent with the Oakland County executive order, but we've been doing it at all of our locations. And basically that's a questionnaire for any staff that's reporting into the terminal. We've also been doing that screening questionnaire for riders of Connector, because those are riders who are actually interacting with them over the phone to schedule a trip. So we're able to do that screening for them as well. Whenever we have staff following best practices that have come in contact with somebody or are showing symptoms, they're immediately quarantined, and then Human Resources works to get them a test. We're tracking it with all of the, again, the best practices for when people are monitored, return to work. We've not only met the 80-hour requirement on the federal level for quarantine leave, but we've made that basically unlimited. So if people have to quarantine for any reason, they do not have to worry about where they're going to get those hours. We've made sure that that's available so people can make the decision based on the right reasons and not have to worry about how it's going to impact themselves or their family. In addition, we were one of the first agencies in the state and actually in the Midwest to switch to fare-free service. And we did that, at least initially, we did that because the fare box is a point of a lot of direct contact between passengers and other passengers, and more importantly, between passengers and drivers. So we shut the fare box off, which is at the front of the bus, and then everybody who doesn't need the ramp to board is all boarding through the rear of the bus. And again, that's to make sure that we can continue to have operational capacity of the drivers and keep them safe, while also keeping people safe from not having to interact with the fare box. In addition, we've been working on driver shields and barriers to provide another layer of protection for the drivers when they're out there. We've got some temporary shields in place, and in the long term, we're using CARES Act dollars to purchase permanent shields that are a little more substantial, that should be in hopefully at the beginning of next year. And all of our staff are required to wear masks. In addition, a couple weeks before the governor's mandate, we required all of our passengers to wear masks as well. The CARES Act funding, SMART's portion of that, we worked with the RTA and our partners at DDOT, Ann Arbor, People Mover, and Q-Line to all work through kind of what our needs were. SMART ended up securing just under $59 million of CARES Act funding from the Federal Transit Administration. This is funding that is intended to help not only respond and react, but also to sustain and recover. So unlike some of the federal dollars on the county level and other, the state level, that has a very strict deadline for it has to be spent. I think a lot of those are by the end of this calendar year. Because of the way the FTA funding works, we're able to be a little bit more deliberate as far as making sure that this funding can help us sustain our services and our staff through the crisis for probably 12 to 18 months at a minimum. Because obviously we're missing out on fare boxes. We have a lot of increased costs when it comes to cleaning, sanitization, staff leave, and then also some of these capital projects I'm going to talk about here in a second. So our board approved this in June. We're in the process of procuring some of these items. We've got a portion of it, about half of it is being set aside for operational support that can make up for lost revenues from the fares. Also, if the state budget implications are still going to be unknown, and other additional expenses. On the capital side, we're looking at ways to help communicate changes in information more quickly to our passengers. We're also looking to retrofit our fleet to have transom windows so we can have more fresh air interjected into the bus cabin. We're going with mechanized wheelchair restraints to help limit the contact with drivers having to secure wheelchairs. And then also we have upgraded our replacement of our buses. We're going to replace about 25 of our buses now are going to be replaced with the 60-foot articulated buses, provide us more opportunities for distancing when we're on the routes. And then in the future, it also will help us respond to some of the increased demand on the fast routes as well. And then finally, the last two things, microtransit, I'm going to talk about in a second. There's some money to increase our pilot there. And then finally, we set aside $3 million of this money that we're making available to every community in the 3-county region. This is not opt-in or opt-out. This is any community that receives municipal credits through the state, which would be every community in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb. They're going to get something that's proportional to that, shared with the provider who is providing service to their community. And we're working closely with those communities and their providers to get that money available to them. And that will help them respond just as we have when it comes to increased costs and precautions, staff costs, and also to help make up for lost revenue. So that's the money we've set aside, $3 million that's there to support our community partners directly. And that's in addition to us helping with other things like installing the temporary shields and making some other repairs and adjustments as requested. So quickly, the commuter routes here, basically we're working very closely with the business community. Obviously our commuter routes are oriented toward downtown Detroit. Really, we've had very little, we've had a lot of response, but there's very little activity there that would warrant returning those routes into service, but we're watching it very closely. We know they're important as people will start coming back to work. And really, we're working with regional businesses across the region on routes and adjustments throughout the crisis. You think about downtown workers really are seeing very few people going to work, but there are other areas like the Amazon distribution centers, some of the light manufacturing that are actually seeing increased need for people to get to work as they're being obviously impacted in a different way when it comes to more business and activity related to some people's changing trends and habits. So a lot that's going on there as well. In the future, we want to make sure we remain nimble, flexible, and innovative when it comes to not only responding, but the new normal in the future is not going to look exactly how it looked before the crisis. And this is a perfect time for us to be able to make adjustments to how our service is delivered to respond to that. I think we're in a great position to do that. We had a Smart Path plan that was about a 2-year process. Recommendations there will be implemented here in the next 12 months from the first phase, and a new concept called microtransit, which is very short trips that connects people to fixed route and also gets them on short trips of a mile or two on demand with an Uber or Lyft style interface of, within 10 or 15 minutes, there'll be a van there that is there to take you either to a fixed route stop that's a little bit too far away to walk to, or something else that's close to your work or business. So we're really excited about putting that in place. Also, we're doing a mobility hubs project, so a kind of a park and ride in each fast corridor, but also we'll have kind of an incubator space for everything from electric vehicle testing, charging, autonomous vehicle stuff, bike lockers, everything we can get there to make it a community resource along each of those corridors. And then finally, we want to make sure we stay on top of best practices to keep our staff, residents, businesses, and communities safe, and be here to support the regional recovery. So we know that there's not a lot of ridership right now. The people who are riding now are critical. We want to make sure that we're there ready to respond safely as people return back to work and the region recovers. So with that, I'll leave it there, and I'm also available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kramer, members of the Oakland County Public Transit Authority, for all your work. I know you do this in a volunteer capacity, and we greatly appreciate the information and the work that you dug in to kind of bring things up to the 21st century standard and improve transit going forward. At this moment, I'll open it up to any members of the board that would like to ask any questions of our appointees in the OCPTA or Mr. Kramer. I got 2 questions, Commissioner Taub, followed by Commissioner Whitmer. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you. I have one question for our gentleman from SMART. What have you been doing about the buses or the minibuses that go to nursing homes, senior centers, and so on? Are you still continuing them, or have you cut those out?
Great question. So SMART's fleet that we operate is about 120 vehicles. We have continued to make that available throughout the crisis. And in some cases, I mentioned all those other community partners where sometimes there's senior centers who have their own services. In cases where communities have reduced or stopped their local operations, we've stepped in to help make sure that we can help get those people to the trips, especially when it comes to some of the medical appointments and stuff that had to keep going regardless of the crisis.
May I continue?
Oh, yes.
For the mayor of Ferndale, could she put up the membership list? I have some questions about that, if possible.
The membership list, what do you mean? What membership list do you mean?
The members of her board.
Well, I guess you asked the question that you have. I mean, I guess we can try to bring it back up again, but it's what, you have a
Okay.
question, who's on
Well,
it?
Yeah, well, no. I was wondering what input the alternates have. Are they permitted to ask questions? Are they permitted to attend the meetings? I think you have two alternates, Kent Douglas and David Dillingham. Are they permitted to participate in the meeting, or they're, pardon me?
Absolutely. They aren't voting members, but they have been stepping in when a regular member is unable to attend. So, and David Dillingham has been very diligent in attending regularly. So we're very thankful that they're there.
So are you allowing your alternate members, excuse me, are you allowing them to participate, or are they not permitted to? I have heard that they're not permitted to unless somebody's absent. Is that correct?
Answer.
They are able to ask questions and during the meetings, but if the full authority members are there, they are not allowed to vote. So if
Okay.
they are sitting in for someone who is missing or not present that day, then they are voting in a full participant.
So as an example, Mr. Douglas, if David Harold didn't show up, Mr. Douglas could sit in for him, or she could sit in for Marie Donegan or Dave Dillingham. I'm just making these names up. Could sit in for
Absolutely.
Miss. Okay, so they're all permitted. If someone's absent, any one of the alternates who shows up is permitted to sit in for the regular person. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But they don't have assigned people. Is that correct?
They don't have assigned people.
Now, I'm very confused. Yeah. In other words,
Commissioner Top, I don't understand your question. There's
Okay.
5 members that are
let's
appointed.
just say, Rashawn Bird doesn't show up. Can either Mr. Dillingham or Mr. Douglas sit in for her?
No. I mean, there are people, there is a guaranteed minority member, minority caucus member that serves on this board, and we have a minority alternate member. And they fill in for that person, and Mr. Douglas represents the majority minority appointments.
We have been very open to hearing all perspectives during the meeting. So that has been a welcome voice to the conversation.
Okay, because you mentioned that the most experience anyone had was from 2017. Was that what you said?
That's with the 5 appointed members. That's what I was referring to. But I hear what you're saying. David and Kent have been appointed longer as alternative members than the 5 permanent authority members.
Yeah, and if I were chairing that meeting, I'd be thrilled to have some people with that many years of experience. I have another
I assure
question.
you, Commissioner Top, the experience and around public transit, the people who are on the board are superior.
I'm sure they are, Mr. Chair, but I think that if I had more voices to be heard, I'd welcome them as well. But then I'm a different kind of person.
I think
Okay,
you've heard from the
let's-
chair that all voices are welcome, and they're invited to the meetings, and they actively participate.
okay,
Any-
good.
Okay.
Yes, I have another question if I may.
You may.
How does the transit authority plan to get everybody on buses?
The authority sets performance expectations with our smart transportation provider. So the service and is something that SMART is responsible for, and the authority holds SMART accountable for the contract on performance expectations. So that's kind of how the relationships work between SMART and the OCPTA. For getting people on buses, I think there is opportunity to explore with SMART how to enhance service and the experience of getting on and off the bus, paying for passes. And I think that's where the operational enhancements the OCPTA is looking at. There's been significant advancements in technology, and we're looking for SMART to adopt those, and they are having them already in their operational plans. So getting more people on buses is about improving the experience, not only in a community where there's a bus stop, but also with the phone in their hand, if they have a phone, and making sure that it's easier to buy and get on and off the bus with the easy process. And Robert can talk about the boarding process, but the whole experience is part of increasing people riding buses. And that's what we're focused on as an OP.
And I have one, thank you. I have one more question, Mr. Chair. As a governmental entity, as I understand, but please correct me if I'm incorrect, we cannot give anything to an authority or anybody else unless they provide a service, unless we get a benefit from it. In other words, we can't write a check to United Way unless we know who's benefiting, how many people are being helped, and so on and so forth. We just can't write checks. So when we are providing a service, we, as the government, are providing a service to an authority, don't they have to pay for it?
I mean, Commissioner Taub, I mean, your question is, don't they have to pay for it?
Yes, because
talking
they
about the
have taken-
relationship.
we are
I don't
funding,
understand your question.
we are funding
Who's
our
funding?
staff.
Who's funding?
We are the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners is paying somebody to do their staff work for them. And I
We
do
have-
believe that we are owed something in return. We're not getting anything, okay? We're not getting a salary.
We are getting a tremendous amount of value. What do we have? 8.2. Okay, people, please go on mute if you're not speaking.
Dave,
I will mute everybody. Okay, thank you. So the Board of Commissioners appoints the members to the authority. That authority has the task of appropriately, as the chairwoman Piana has pointed out, contracting for services of which Oakland County residents benefit from. We are providing de minimis support so that not only can the meetings happen, and I would say that the volunteer hours and effort that our volunteer authority members have put into to update bylaws, to update, to get counsel, to make sure that all the records are in one location has resulted in improved government. And it's perfectly an appropriate use of some of our board, since these are Board of Commissioner appointees, that it's appropriate that we continue to support that. And all of their minutes and their information is on our county commissioner website for the public to see.
Okay, I'd like to request a corporation council so I can be sure that this is what we're supposed to be doing and we're not supposed to be charging for the services of a secretary. I appreciate the work that the Transit Authority is doing, certainly. And I know they've got their heart and soul in it. And I know that many of them have their heart and soul, but sadly, some don't show up. I know that too, but that's sad. But anyway, that being said, I would like to have a corporation council opinion if we can provide services like that to an outside entity. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. I will take that under advisement. Commissioner Wiper had a question.
Thank you. It's a couple questions for Robert Kramer. Good to see you. When I was riding the buses, the DSRs in Detroit in the 70s, we always fought over having the window because the window was on one seat and the other row didn't have a window because the window slid. You talked about remodeling the buses or retrofitting the buses to have windows for fresh air. But which is good, but isn't what's the bigger picture? I will be honest, with the virus, I'm afraid to fly. I don't think I'm going to fly this year. And what's the sense on getting on a bus without, windows are nice, but is there better air handling system, or, I mean, it's a combination of things. I mean, what are you doing to make it safe?
Sure. So, I think that the most important thing that we have found is certainly requiring passengers to wear a mask, which we've been doing for a longer than the governor's orders, certainly. And that's not a decision that was easy to make either. When our fleet was replaced starting in about 2010, they picked a style that had a little bit more sleeker exterior that has windows that do not open. They don't have any parts on them that open except for like an emergency egress. When I rode the buses before we got those, I always picked a spot that had a window that opened. That was a decision that was made quite a while ago. And so this retrofit will allow to basically just replace the panes that have a transom style window. So it's something that kind of opens up at the top. It's not a sliding window like the older buses had. But we've been really trying to stay on top of the science when it comes to the different transmission. And we're hearing more and more, obviously all of us, we are hearing more and more about that it could be more aerosol based than originally thought. I know in the last month or so, we've got some data about our HVAC system. It has 25% fresh air as part of the handling. So the bus air is replaced every 4 or 5 minutes. That's without the windows open. So the windows opening would help with kind of that fresh air. But really what we're hearing is that having everybody wear masks and then obviously spread out as much as possible really is the best way. In addition to not having anything you have to touch, so the fare boxes aren't there, our cleaning crews are cleaning the grab bars in case people use those. But really what we're hearing is that the masks are really the most important part in addition to spacing out. And so that's been our approach so far.
Thank you. And can I follow up with one little, another issue?
Certainly.
You mentioned $3 million for, that's available to communities, whether they're opt-in or opt-out. So I'm way out here in South Lyon that has a contracted service with People's Express. So are you telling me part of $3 million will be available to all the counties that are opted out? And is it COVID related? So, no touch fare box and air handling and mask and things like that. Is that what's coming or available?
Yeah. So yes, it is something that is available to either the community or the provider that they're using. So some communities like the West Oakland Transit or NODA, North Oakland, obviously, we're giving the money that would go to their communities. We're giving it to NODA, obviously, to help them with their response. And then there's a pretty wide.
Oops.
And Mr. Kramer, I think you somehow muted. I don't know.
Sorry, it was a really great response, I promise. Okay, so yes, the answer is it's available to all communities. What we've been doing is either giving it to the community, or if they have a transportation partner, we're giving it to them. So like North Oakland, they have NODA. They're the ones that will have this made available to them. It's all a reimbursement based, and there's a pretty wide range of things that they can use that are eligible costs. So whether it's just hazard pay or cleaning supplies, or if they did want to buy different air handlers, filters, contactless fare box, whatever the case might be, they can use their judgment to figure out how they want to do that, or even just making up for lost revenues on a local basis to pay for some of their regular operating expenses. All those are really eligible, and the community has control as far as how they want to spend the money that's kind of set aside for their area.
Just are they being told, or should we notify them?
No. We have an ombudsperson for each county. Madonna Van Fossen is for Oakland County. So she's been in contact with all the communities. There's going to be an agreement in place that kind of lays all that out. And then there'll be a process for them to seek reimbursement for those dollars. They'll have until next September to spend it. So they'll have a little bit over a year from now, either for short-term costs or things that may be more a longer term to assist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Whiteford. I saw Commissioner Zach had her hand out. I don't know if Commissioner Zach, do you have any further questions?
No, I'll pass.
Thank you, Commissioner. And then Commissioner Todd, we have another presentation, so if we can keep it brief, Commissioner Todd, I'll represent for one question. Go ahead.
One question. When do you plan to have your next transit tax on the ballot millage?
I
Are you
believe,
asking are you asking when the smart millage is up for renewal?
No, I'm asking when they're going to do another transit tax for.
It's not relevant to this group. This group will not put a tax question. There's the smart millage proposal. It has nothing to do with those other things. We have a smart millage that we've recommended the board approves to put on, which I believe we have another 2 years
yes.
for the smart millage.
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
all right. Commissioner Cole, was that you raising your hand? I got you in the corner of my eye here.
Nope,
Oh, okay. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank again. Thank you, everyone, the Oakland County Public Transit Authority, Chairwoman Piana, and Secretary Donegan, and all of the volunteers that serve on this, as well as Mr. Kramer with SMART for this very in detail explanation. And I also know that they're incredibly responsive. If you have questions, any commissioners that of your district, feel free to reach out to all of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The next presentation, I'm going to hand the floor over to Commissioner Janet Jackson, who heads up our Oakland County Complete Count Committee, to introduce our special guest and take it from there.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased tonight that we have to present to us Linda Clark, who is a census representative for this region, and Tyrone Jordan and Amanda Altakeith. They're going to also just give us some brief comments as well concerning their work toward the census. There's good news and there's a little bit of troubling news that they're going to deliver tonight. So everybody be prepared for a great presentation. Ms. Clark, are you ready?
I am. Thank you so much, Commissioner. How are you this evening?
I'm doing well, staying safe.
Thank you.
How about
I'm doing very well and I'm staying safe also, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone this evening. This is probably one of the last opportunities that we will have to get together. As most of you have probably heard by now, the census will end on September 30th. There was an executive order from the White House last week, and it will end the census process on September 30th in preparation for the December 31st deliverance of the information to the president. So we are ending all of our operations at that time, and I think that might be the news that you were talking about. In the meantime, we are still moving we're still going ahead with all of the processes that we have in place, including non-response follow-up, which is an operation that includes going door to door to all of the homes where we have identified that a response has not been received. And that operation starts on August the 11th. However, I was informed last week, and I'm not quite sure why, so I can't answer that question, but Oakland County is ahead of the date of August 11th. Our non-response follow-up starts today. So starting today, there will be census workers going door to door in Oakland County, again, to those households where we have identified a response has not been received. So we are looking to capture what remains in Oakland County as non-response. And again, those will be by census takers who can be identified by not only their badge, but the equipment that they carry and the bags that they carry, but certainly the identification that each and every census enumerator carries with them. So we, again, will be going door to door, staying safe, within the guidelines that have been presented. We have the personal protection equipment and garb so that we will remain as safe as possible and still be able to conduct the count. So again, that starts today and will end through the end of the enumeration period, which is again September 30th. So there are a few other operations, but before I get to that, because this is one of our last meetings, I wanted to just take a moment to thank all of the commissioners. Certainly Commissioner Woodward, you and I spoke early on in the operation and you were very supportive. Chairman Woodward, I appreciate all of the assistance that you have given me. We had long conversations and you were always very supportive of the efforts of the census, as has been all of the commissioners. Certainly Commissioner Tubbs started the process. We spoke very early in 2018, I believe. And of course, Commissioner Jackson, who has been, I don't have the words to thank you. You have just been fantastic through this whole process, Commissioner. And I wanted to take a moment just to thank you, as well as Amanda and Tyrone, who have just stepped in. I mean, they came in later in the process, but that certainly did not discount the effort. You guys have been wonderful, and you still are fantastic in trying to ensure that Oakland County is thoroughly counted in this 2020 census decennial. So, of course, our county exec, Dave Coulter, has been wonderful and supportive and provided the resources that we needed to get this process moving, as have all of the mayors and supervisors, city managers, et cetera. I know Mayor Cyber in Southfield and Mayor Waterman out of Pontiac are still working very closely to ensure that their cities are counted completely. So we have still a little ways to go. I don't want to give the impression that we're fine. We're not quite where we need to be, although Oakland County is doing very well. The latest number in Oakland County puts us today at 77.1% of the population. Just to give you a bit of perspective, in 2000, that number was 86%, and in 2010, we were at 82%. But I want you to keep in mind that the census is still going, and we are just starting the non-response follow-up and knocking on the door of each of the residents where we have not received a response. So that number is expected, that 77.1% is expected to go up. But the response that I have gotten from the county overall has been fantastic. And to each of the commissioners and the mayors and city managers, et cetera, thank you for all of your support during this process. So the two areas, and I know Amanda probably is going to talk a little bit about this, but just briefly, the census recognizes those areas which are struggling at under 50%. I am happy to say that there are no communities that are under 50%. We have a few tracts, and census tracts are areas of population or blocks of population. We have a few areas that are a little under where we would like them to be, but there are, as it stands now, no communities in Oakland County that are under 50%, which is fantastic. I could not be prouder of the county for that. Pontiac is at 58.5%. I'm sorry, let me scratch up. Pontiac is at 59.3% with two tracts that we have identified as low tracts, and they are trending just under 50%. And Southfield is currently at 68%, and Southfield has one tract that is just under 50%. So as you can see, we are really, really doing well in the county, and I do expect again that our numbers will increase once the non-response follow-up is completed September 30th. But we are, again, have a lot of work to be done, and the cities of both Pontiac and Southfield have scheduled events to assist in communicating the significance of the decennial to their residents. So we have a number of events that are coming up, and they are being staffed by what we call our MQA, which is Mobile Questionnaire Assistance individuals. These are persons who have been sworn, they work for census and they have been sworn to confidentiality, and they will work with the individuals at the events to actually capture the census information on the spot. So at all of the events that we have scheduled for both Pontiac and Southfield, we will have MQA assistants there, and that process will continue through September. Quickly, just to give you an idea of our timeline, again, the non-response follow-up will end on September 30th. We are in the process now of working with what we call group quarters. Those will be the nursing homes and places where you have individuals who are living under a single roof, but who are not necessarily related. And again, that would be places where you have a greater number of individuals as opposed to individual apartments or condos. Those are considered individual or like the homes and not considered part of the group quarter enumeration. So group quarters is going to continue now through the early part. It is continuing through the early part of September. And we have contacted the group quarter facilities within the county. Hopefully, most of the information has been uploaded, but for those facilities where we have not received a response, we are visiting those locations to ensure that those individuals are enumerated as well. We also have what's called service-based enumeration, which is going to be taking place shortly. It's going to take place in September. It was actually always scheduled to take place after we revised our schedule. And the enumeration period is relative to those places where people who are traditionally without a steady home are located. So we're talking about service-based enumeration such as soup kitchens, shelters, places where food vans that regularly serve people who are struggling with some level of homelessness. We will also be working with our homelessness outdoors September 23rd through the 24th. And I should say that our service-based enumeration begins on the 22nd of September and ends on the 24th. And on the 23rd through the 24th, we will have the outdoor enumeration, and that will also include our enumeration of transitory locations. So that takes into account people who are staying maybe behind buildings, at campgrounds, RV parks, hotels, places that are not normally, we're not talking about people that are just at a hotel for a couple days, but people who are actually living in hotels. So that will take place during that time period as well. It will end in September on the 28th. So that's a general idea of where we are with our operational adjustments, which have been made as a result of the pandemic. But we are, again, moving in the direction of trying to capture also as many individual homes as we possibly can, as well as the enumeration period, of course, that will start in the latter part of September. So that's a general overview of where we are. Just want to give you an idea that the state of Michigan stands in the top 5% of the country. We're at 68.9, I believe, was the number for today. And that puts us in the top 5. We have consistently stayed in the top 5% in the state of Michigan. And of course, I gave you the numbers for Oakland County. So anyone who is interested can look at the response rates for 2020. We do have a website that is devoted to individuals who are interested in finding out what the response rates are for their community. and I'm happy to provide that information should you have an interest. I know that Amanda is very familiar. Amanda and Tyrone are very familiar with that website, but it does allow you to take a look at any of the communities across the country, but specifically the communities in Oakland County, the counties, states, counties, cities, and other municipalities, townships, etc. So again, thank you for all of the support that I have received in Oakland County. I've been out here for a while and have met so many of you, and I appreciate, again, the efforts that you have given on behalf of the county to ensure that our rates are where they should be once this decennial is completed.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Before we get done, David, we're going to wrap it up because I know we're getting long. I just want to also give kudos, and I would be remiss not to mention Lisa Brown, our clerk's office has been a great partner in our complete count committee, providing demographics and helping us march through the territory. And Commissioner Taub and Commissioner Powell are members of the complete count committee as well. And they've also been integral partners in this whole process. So I'm just very happy about where we are as a county, because it's all about us and it's all for us. And so, Linda, thank you for sharing that positive news. I just want to ask Amanda or Tyrone if they have anything to add. Yes, no?
Hi, this
Yes.
is Amanda. If I can answer any questions or can provide an update on the few events that we have been doing. Would you like me to provide a quick update on events?
Amanda, if you could be very quick, we're going to get to, but yes, I mean, and particularly if there's things the commissioners can do to help support maximizing our count.
Absolutely, and that's mainly the one item I do want to mention. So on August 13th, next Thursday, will be the last day of our Wixom event at the Village. The county will be providing a food truck for anyone in the area. They can come from anywhere, but it's primarily for Wixom apartment complexes to come out, fill out their census, and we'll have our mobile laptops there, and they will receive a food voucher to our food truck, Beans and Cornbread. So that's, if any commissioners or anyone wants to plug that for us, I've got a flyer that I'll send out to Megan to distribute. So we hope to see people there.
Thanks, Amanda. Tyrone, anything to add?
I know we're getting short on time, but I would like to congratulate the city of Huntington Woods and also Pleasant Ridge, who are ranked in the top 10 in the country as far as response rate.
Wonderful. So that's Commissioner Zach, and that's Commissioner Zach. And McGilvern.
And McGilvern. McGilvern represents
Okay. So, well, thank you. And thank you all for listening tonight. And Linda, thank you again for coming to present. And Amanda and Tyrone, thank you for all the work that you're doing, as well as my fellow commissioners and the clerk. We're going to have a great time.
Right. And thank you, Commissioner Jackson, for making sure this information is available. Our staff circulates to all of us the performance of all of our local communities, and so particularly areas, Milford, Pontiac, Southfield, the Wixom areas that are below the average. We want to make certain that commissioners continue to push out through social media everywhere you have an opportunity how important this is. We all know what's at stake. So I want to thank you and continue leadership. And the next couple of months we'll be, less than the next couple of months, we'll be wrapping this up, and then and then live with the results for the next decade. So thank you very much. All right, let's bring it back to the agenda. Let me bring it up here. The next thing that we have up is public comment for this meeting. And so I'd like to call on our staff, Andrea Powers, to see is there anybody from the public that's here to address us? Andrea?
Yes, we have two public comments today. The first is an online submission from Ben Vanderweide from Lake Orion. He writes, and I support the proposed 2020 to 2029 Parks and Recreation Commission millage proposal and ask that the commission approve this proposal for consideration by Oakland County voters. In particular, the new initiatives to provide free day use for seniors, military, veterans, and residents with disabilities, trailways programs, community partnerships, and park development programs, and invasive species program will provide direct benefits to residents in all parts of the county. There are currently no callers, and then I know Clerk Brown wanted to speak as well, so I will set the clock for you for 3 minutes.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna be fast. Well, commissioners, I just wanted to thank you for your support in having a county absentee voting accounting board. I ended up, along with Chair Woodward, signing 16 contracts with different cities and townships, if I can say them really fast. Berkeley, Birmingham, Brandon Township, Farmington, Ferndale, Holly Township, Huntington Woods, Madison Heights, Oak Park, Pleasant Ridge, Pontiac, Royal Oak City, Royal Oak Township, Southfield Township, South Lyon, and Walled Lake. We processed or tabulated over 50,000 ballots. We were done in the late afternoon, and it went really well. My staff was incredible. The people that were workers for the day were incredible, and it was just very successful. So thank you for that, for your support. I call them the Sweet 16. The 16 communities that we process for. So second, as I always do, I want to remind you and invite you that the canvas of the election is going to happening in the elections division in our office. And you are, of course, welcome, as is the public. It is open for the public to come and see what the process is, what we do in order to certify any races. So come on by, you appoint or elect, or whatever word you want to use, our board of canvassers, our bipartisan board. Come see what they do. And then thirdly, oh, I'm doing so good on time. Thirdly, I wanted to make sure you all knew we finally got our directories. I'm trying to make it, okay. And I did a cover contest, and the subject that they had to make art for was our bicentennial. The pandemic really rained on our parade, like quite literally, of all the wonderful things we were going to do to celebrate Oakland County's bicentennial. But this got to still happen. So it's a wonderful art piece by a young a high school student, Aspen Snyder. And so I hope you all got those. So I did it under 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes our public comment. Your lines are still open. There are no callers. There was one and then they dropped.
You're on mute, David. David, you're on mute.
There, you're muted.
I'm on mute. All right. I was just saying thank you to everybody. So thank you, Andrea. With that, I will declare public comment closed. And that will bring us to reports of standing committees. I believe that we overlooked something when we approved the agenda. And so I'd like to recognize Commissioner McGilvery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 2 items on the suspension list. One is item E on the regular, that will be on the regular agenda. That was a resolution regarding the Recreation Commission millage. And the resolution was taken up earlier today, prior to today's meeting. That's the reason for the suspension. The second one was Finance and Infrastructure Committee. That was item D, Economic Development and Community Affairs, acceptance of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation grant for the Michigan Small Business Restart Program. And that also was taken up earlier by the Finance Committee.
Okay, so Commissioner McGilvery moves suspension of it's rule 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the appropriate rule on those 2 items, seconded by Commissioner Zach. Any discussion? I need some more formality. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
And let the record reflect that the suspension of that rule was adopted unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner McGilvery. That will bring us to the consent agenda, and it's everything that's in our packets minus item B under Finance and Infrastructure Committee. Is there a motion to move the consent agenda? Moved by Commissioner Loop, seconded by Commissioner Long. Any discussion on any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the consent agenda, Commissioners Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer.
Yes.
Okay, if everyone else could please mute, I'm getting feedback. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Cowell? Yeah, I got you, Kokendorfer. Thank
Okay, got it.
you. Cowell, I just heard you say yes too. Thank you. Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton, Commissioner Middleton? Did we lose him? Okay. Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Weipert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson.
Yes.
Okay, and did Middleton return? Oh,
Commissioner Middleton's
Commissioner
here.
Middleton?
Yep.
There he is. Thumbs up. Is that a yes on the consent agenda, Commissioner? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Middleton votes yes.
Yes, I said that. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
Excellent. Thank you, Vera. Sufficient number voted in the affirmative. The consent agenda is adopted. That will move us to the regular agenda. First up, we have Finance and Infrastructure Committee. I'll call on Commissioner Zach, and we have item B that was originally printed on the consent agenda. Commissioner Zach.
Okay, this is Facilities Planning and Engineering, Health and Human Services, Honor Community Health, North Oakland Health Center, and South Oakland Health Center Remodeling Project. I move the resolution.
Commissioner Zach moves the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Gershenson. Is there any discussion? Commissioner Taub, I think you asked for this to be pulled from the resolution. Do you want to speak to this item?
Yes, I do, but I can't get my camera on, so if
That's
you don't.
okay. We hear you. We hear you.
Okay. Oh, now there it goes. I just want to know what this is all about and if this was part of the budget or just part of I want it. I think it's a good idea, but I just need to know what the thinking behind it was, and what we are doing with this funding.
Does anybody else want to speak to the resolution?
Do you want me to explain it
I mean,
if we don't have staff here?
is that right? No, well, you just, explain the proposal that's, before us. Summarize, it was passed unanimously by the Finance Committee.
Okay, so last December, we approved bringing Honor Health into our health department locations in Southfield and Pontiac. And this is moving forward on renovations, to build out office space for the, bringing Honor Health staff in. So we are appropriating money as part of that process.
And this, just to add to that, this is the space build out so that we can bring primary care services and other services, wraparound services, as part of the overall expansion of public health services to Oakland County residents.
May I ask a
Commissioner
question?
Taub on a second time.
Well, okay. So both of these construction projects then are in our own buildings, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Great, thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
On the resolution, Commissioners Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Okendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton, okay, thank you. Commissioner Middleton gave me a thumbs up for a yes. Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Whitebert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. Commissioner Zach, is there any further business?
No, that concludes my agenda for Finance Committee.
Thank you, Commissioner Zach. This will bring me to Health, Safety, and Human Services Committee. Recognize Commissioner Penny Lubes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission millage. We met earlier today with a presentation. Our parks were established in 1965 with one park, 190 acres, and we now have 13 parks with 70,000 acres. With the Headley, our tax rate has gone down.
Wait, Commissioner Lubes, just one
Yes.
second here. You want to move the resolution?
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you.
Moved by Commissioner Lubes, seconded by Commissioner McGilvray, to bring the question forward. All right, Commissioner Lubes.
Thank you. We're looking at the millage for 2021 of $30 million in our $30 million budget. The proposed millage rate would be 0.35. That would equal 12 additional dollars a year for a house valued at $200,000. This money will be used for maintenance that has been deferred, for capital improvement programs, and updating our trails. We're also looking at community partnerships to work with the parks, and we'll look at invasive species in the parks.
Thank
I
you,
jumped
Commissioner
off the board with that one.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Lubes. I'd like to recognize the chair of our Parks and Rec Commission, Commissioner McGilvray, if there's anything you would like to add to this, and I'll open up to further questions for everybody. Commissioner McGilvray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, just some of the same comments. We've grown a lot since 1965 when parks were started with a millage of 0.25. We're now down to 0.2312 because of Headley. And so back in when we started in 65, we had one park, and in 2020, we have 14 parks and a lot of amenities in all of our parks. Buildings, roads, roofs, infrastructure in general are all aging. Currently, we have $20 million list of work that needs to be done, and we're trying to play catch up. We have for about the last 4 to 5 years. We've been using fund balance, and pretty soon fund balance will be gone. So it's important that we get an increase. So our parks are well kept up for the residents, and they do a terrific job. The problem is we won't be able to continue doing that unless we get an increase, because we're so far behind on things. I'd just like to remind everybody that hopefully this won't be a partisan issue. It shouldn't be. This is parks for the Oakland County residents. Please remember that voting yes tonight does not mean that you're voting for a tax increase.
but instead you're voting to put it on the ballot so that people can make their own decision on November 4th.
Thank you, Commissioner McGilvery. Commissioner Lutz, raise your hand, and then I'll open up to anybody else. If you raise your hand, I'll put you in the queue. Commissioner Lutz.
I would also like to add that this would include complimentary day use for seniors 62 and over, our military veterans, and the permanently disabled. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lutz, for that clarification. Commissioner Spiz raised his hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a few questions. Commissioner Lewis made some comments, and I also did receive a few calls and emails from a few constituents in my area relative to invasive species and to pathways. So, and then I know Commissioner McGilvery made a comment relative to that we need the money for funding, for maintenance, etc. behind. So are we looking to add services with this money also relative to invasive species? And if that's a yes, how? And then somebody also mentioned a comment about pathways. What are we going to do different for pathways that would help communities? Because there's a belief out there that we're going to help them with their paths. Is that true?
I'll respond to that, and then I guess anyone else wants to jump in. I first want to applaud the park staff that's put a tremendous amount of time and energy looking at our current operations, looking at the financial realities of our situation, recognizing that the parks have been operating at a capacity far and exceeding of what is able to bring in with the public support, and in order to maintain that, revenue is needed. And so with that, staff put together a plan. The plan includes the things that Commissioner Lubes and Commissioner McGilvery talked about, and Parks has sent that, I mean, basically how a 0.35 proposal would be distributed to support all of those things. And working with the Board of Commissioners, as well as obviously with the Parks and Rec Commission, be able to make certain that that happens. In addition to, like in totality, and I just to recap of what it would be, ensures support for parks operations, find a funding stream to support the repairs that are needed over the next 10 years. That's in excess of 20 million. The free day passes for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. Environmental sustainability, to Commissioner Spiz's exact point. We already have a partnership with Parks and with SISMA and combating invasive species, which is something that impacts the entire county. And to be able to continue to be able to do that, community partnerships, like the number of programs that are currently exist out there, as well as provide support for the expansion of a trail network, which ranks as probably one of the top one or two top priorities that the residents of Oakland County want us to do. We have a lot of trails. Expanding that trail network to connect us is something that I think is the public overwhelmingly asks of us, and we're better able to do so.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Can you expand on connect trails? Does that mean trails outside of the parks? So like if a community, I know Oxford and Orion Township have safety paths throughout their communities, and I know there's been a big initiative across the state to connect all those paths. Is that included in this bill? Is that what the intent is by your comment, is to connect those type of paths, or is it different?
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
You can play, please, Mr. McGilvery. I think it's better suited as the chair of Parks.
Commissioner Spiz, we now do that already. I mean, we've built trails throughout the Oakland County, and if we don't have all the land or own all the land, we will partner with the local communities to be able to extend that trail even longer. We've done that for a long time, and we will continue to do that. Now, will we finance the entire trail through those communities? I can't say that we can, but we can certainly make it available so that we can help with that, and but just not financially. I mean, planning of the trails, that kind of thing.
Mr. Chairman, it appears that in the transferring of the committee record, the roll call was placed right in the middle of the ballot language. If you wouldn't mind, if we could have a motion to allow us to fix that transcription error.
Sir, certainly. So you mean from committee?
Yes, when the committee record was taken, the roll call was placed right in the middle of the ballot language, which would probably make for a bad ballot language for our county clerk to place on the ballot. If you wouldn't mind if we could make that small correction.
So should we withdraw the motion that was made to advance this proposal and then start
No,
over?
I think just an amendment within your, you already have a motion on the floor for adoption of the resolution, so.
So the amendment is to strike the roll call from committee that inadvertently found its way in the middle of that document.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, there's a motion. May I invite Commissioner McGilvery invites the motion seconded by Commissioner Spiz to strike out the roll call from committee so that the language is just plain and clear. All in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, the amendment passes unanimously. And so now we're just looking at the language of the ballot initiative that we're talking about. Any further discussion on the proposal? Commissioner Hoffman.
Chairman Woodward,
Oh, yes.
Commissioner
Okay.
Ginjo would like to make a comment too.
Okay. Sure, certainly. Commissioner Hoffman, followed by Commissioner Ginjo.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. And I brought this up at our Health, Safety, and Human Services meeting. You know, they always use the example of an additional $12 for a $200,000 home. You know, this tax is spread across every classification of property, whether it's industrial, commercial, multiple. And believe me, those people are going to be paying a lot more in taxes. There's a lot of businesses, especially restaurants, that are not going to reopen. I predict that maybe some people will not work in an office. They'll operate remotely for quite a long time. And that's going to hurt the value of some of these office buildings, not just the value, but the income of some of these properties. A lot of people out of work. I think we're sending the wrong message to raise taxes. And I love the parks. I enjoy the parks, but I'm not in favor of this.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoffman.
Yeah, thank you.
I got Commissioner Ginjo, followed by Commissioner Taub. Commissioner Ginjo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple comments too in regards to the millage. A couple things. It was mentioned that it's going to include free entrance for seniors and military personnel. And unless that's written in a ballot language, which I don't believe it is, that's really a policy issue that it's not contingent upon the millage passing per se. We could do that today if we wanted to.
It is written
so that's
in the
a
ballot
policy
language.
issue.
Commissioner Ginjo, it is written into the ballot language.
Okay. The other thing I would like to say is that, you know, when this came before us and we had discussions around the park, we've been talking for years about there's businesses we should look at, golf courses, catering businesses, etc. And in my opinion, we haven't done any of that. What we're saying is let's throw more money at it, keep everything going as it has. We're not cutting, we're not tightening our belt, we're not making any choices to reduce costs. We're just going to raise the taxes of the people and keep on keeping on. That's one point. The second point is, you know, we talk about $20 million in underperformed maintenance. I think that should be a millage, but I don't think it should be wrapped into a 10-year millage. I think it should be a 2 or 3 year millage that's set specifically for maintenance and it sunsets. Rolling it into a 10-year millage, it to me is not responsible. And to Commissioner Hoffman's point, I mean, we have a lot of people unemployed and, you know, the government's subsidizing the economy right now, but that's not going to last forever. And we're putting incremental taxes on people that are probably in the position least to be able to afford it. So I'm going to be a no vote on this. I just don't think it's the right time, and I don't think it's a responsible plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, Commissioner Taub, followed by Commissioner Kowal. No. Commissioner Taub, you're on mute.
I'm sorry. Thank you. That may be a good thing for you.
We love your voice.
For years and years and years, I've asked about doing certain things at the parks. And among them, the most important thing was to get rid of some of the golf courses, a couple of them. Now, I know they're being used like crazy now, because let's be fair, people are not going up to their golf resorts or on their golf weekends to golf. But as soon as the pandemic is over, and it will be over within a year or two, and I pray for that one. We'll go back to where we were. Now, I've heard the statement that, well, gee whiz, you know, the state gave us some money for the parks and some private people gave us money or donated property. I hear all that. But the parks, for the most part, started in 1965 through the 60s and 70s and early 80s when we purchased most of the land, not all of it, most of it. And I don't want anyone to tell me if property values have increased since 1965, okay? You're all sitting here laughing. Well, I can tell you they have, because in 1970, I bought my first home for $36,000 in Troy, Michigan. House is now selling for a couple $100,000. So yeah, property values have increased. And I think, no, I don't want to say lazy, but people don't want to be bothered with doing the work that has to be done to get rid of some of the property. I know how scarce property is in Oakland County, and I know how many people would love to have a new home in Oakland County, but many of them aren't being built in many places. So I see no reason why some attempt hasn't been made to get rid of some of the burden. I don't see anybody cutting anything. I just see the spending. So I have an amendment here, Mr. Chair. I think I don't know who has it. Connie may have it. And what I basically do is suggest that we extend the millage at 2.2310 millage and put that on the ballot. Remember, what we are doing is raising taxes by 50%. This is a 50% increase from 0.2310, if my math is correct, to 0.35. That's a lot of money, okay? And especially in this time when people are trying desperately just to keep the roof over their head.
Commissioner Todd, is your amendment I'm sorry, excuse me, is your amendment written in the packet?
I don't know, ask Connie.
They are 284 and 285.
Right, okay, thank you.
All right, so there's an amendment that's in the packet, moved by Commissioner Taub. Is there a second? Is there a second? Moved by, second by Commissioner Kowal. Any further discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Taub, I interrupted you. Is there any further discussion on the amendment?
No, I just want to put the, okay.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you to move the amendment. Did you have any further comments on the amendment?
No.
All right, Commissioner Quarles?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarity, what are we voting on? The commissioners.
Good question. It may be helpful for everybody. Can everyone pull up the amendment, or should we ask staff to put it on the screen? What would be helpful? Let me put it. I think it's a pretty straightforward. Commissioner, Mr. Ward, would you mind putting it up on the screen so everyone can see it? So we're clear about what the amendment is.
If I may, Mr. Chair, it's a continuation of the current millage.
I'm sorry, I'm on the phone with Commissioner Middleton trying to get him back connected.
Oh, okay.
What it is a continuation of the current millage.
Right. Yeah. And so I'm going to speak. I'm going to be voting no against this. This amendment not only, I believe, is irresponsible. The park system has been operating basically far and above this, and the park system will, in effect, right, if it stays on its current trajectory, collapse. And so I think it's reckless. I think we all love our parks. We say we love our parks.
So you got disconnected, John?
Mr. Ward, I can hear you. So if you can mute yourself. The original proposal is a proposal that staff has spent a tremendous amount of time. The park staff has put a thank you. This is it. And then if you can scroll down, Mr. Ward, that's the amendment. Park staff put a tremendous amount of time finding a workable proposal that supports operations, fixes the things that are broken that need to be repaired over the next decade, and a host of other things that we've been talking about. This amendment guts that and would put our parks in jeopardy. So I'll be voting no. Seeing no further discussion on it.
I would,
Commissioner Todd, you said you didn't have anything but further to say.
I do. I just want to say one thing. I watch while people are selling cars I watch while people are trying to make ends meet and can't do it. Taxes are due soon. I just cannot support anything that will raise taxes. And this, without selling anything or getting some kind of belt tightening.
Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, on the Taub amendment, please call the roll.
On the Taub amendment, Commissioners Jackson,
No.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
No.
Markham,
No.
McGilvery,
No.
Middleton,
Commissioner Middleton's having some connection issues and working on getting, oh, there he is.
Commissioner Middleton votes yes. Oh, no, wait.
No.
What
it's on the Taub amendment, Commissioner
on the
Middleton.
Taub amendment, Commissioner Middleton. Commissioner
No, you're
Middleton.
yes.
said no,
Okay.
voting yes.
Okay. Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
No.
Spiz,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Whitebert,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Responsibly, yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 11 nays.
An insufficient number voted in the affirmative, the amendment fails. It brings us back to the main motion, and I had Commissioner Kowal next in the queue. Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just am in agreement with Commissioners Hoffman and Gengel and Taub and on their main points about, we're in the middle of a pandemic and I don't think it's the right time to raise taxes. I could support you even restoring it to the 0.25, but going to the 0.35, I can't support that. A couple of things, I guess, we have a lot of infrastructure needs, as you all know. I mean, the roads, the bridges, the dams, everything, and there's going to be a lot of ask for every penny that's out there right now. We've heard that term resource competition. So I just feel like we are all going to have to try to make do with what we have. And just another aside, I don't know if there's any chance of getting this done one of these days. I tried when I was in the House to, I did manage to get the DIA and the zoo exempted from the tax capture, but I just can't help but wonder, if without all the tax captures on the millage that we all pay for the Oakland County parks, maybe they would have the money to do a lot more of what they're supposed to be doing. So just for those points, at this point, I cannot support a 0.35, and I will be a no if that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to offer a little different perspective, I think, than a few of the commissioners we've just heard from. We've had these parks, as you've said, Mr. McGilvery, Commissioner, since 1966. And we've grown to over 7,000 acres. And those were commitments by hundreds of people who came before me on this board. But I know that good government means we are good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And I don't think letting these parks, which are already $20 million behind in their maintenance fees, letting that continue, I don't think that's good stewardship of the taxpayer dollars that have been spent on these parks over all these years. There has been a long study and effort to decide what the right number is, and the Parks Commission came up with this 0.35, and they have a lot of good logic as to why that number makes sense. As far as being in the middle of the pandemic and people are suffering, one of the most important things we can do in this county to help all 1.1 million residents is keep our parks open and clean and operating properly so that we can all get out there and use, regardless of your income level, regardless of whether you have a big house or you don't pay property taxes at all. I believe it is part of the responsibility of a government to provide a commons and keep it up, and that's what I think we're doing with this. A couple of other points. I was contacted by the city forester for Novi today about 5 o'clock to tell me he is wholeheartedly in support of this millage request because we have had so much good help and improving ecosystem in our community in the area of invasive species, treating of the Phragmites and so on. The county park system has just been super, super helpful in all of that. And then the last point I'd like to make is this question of, are we going to work with other communities? One of the things I read in the new proposal is that for areas like mine, where I'm in a part of the county where there really is not a lot of county facilities available to us, we've been paying county taxes. You know, our whole area has been paying taxes to the county park system since they existed without a lot of access nearby. And so what I like about this proposal, sorry, I got interrupted. What I like about this proposal, one aspect of it, is that there are some new ideas about trying to partner with the local communities on things like trails where we can try and target the trail systems to connect to the trails that already exist. We do that out here in my community, but there are other communities nearby that that would really help us all connect together. So I am very much in support of this. I think it's important to keep the parks up. I think it's providing really an essential service across the county to so many people who can get out on a trail and walk, and it doesn't cost them a penny. So I disagree with some of my previous commissioners, with all due respect. I think that we need to move forward with this. I think it's been studied to the point. I don't think we're asking for more than we need. And I'm going to be in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Markham. Commissioner Spiz Commissioner Miller for a first time, followed by Commissioner Spiz for a second time. Commissioner Miller.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to echo what Commissioner Markham said, is in this pandemic, if we didn't have the parks that we have right now, people wouldn't have anywhere to go. We were blessed to have the opportunity to give free admission. I can't imagine if we didn't have a millage that we'd be able to have free admission in this time where people can't afford things. And I'm kind of, I would say, disappointed in some of my fellow commissioners that are against this. And it seems like trying to talk about raising taxes and all that, where we are blessed with, you know, like the tree that's our symbol. And a lot of these commissioners have been on our commission for many years and know that Oakland County is the example for most counties in Michigan. And if we give up our parks and just let them go to waste, what do you think everybody else is going to do? I think we pride ourselves in being the driving force in the light of a lot of different counties to be an example. So I feel this is a perfect example for us to move forward and show that we're not going to give up on our parks, and you know, we want to move forward and continue this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Spiz, if anyone else has a comment, raise your hand. Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to comment on a few of my colleagues' comments relative to the millage rate. I don't believe that any of us are looking to let our parks go away or let them be dilapidated. What we're asking, or what we've been asking, is a better plan to start cutting costs, because we don't see that. So with that, I'd like to make an amendment. It's not in writing, and Mr. Chair, if you need me to get it in writing, we can do that, to change the 0.35 to 0.25.
Why don't, just for a point of expediency, lowering it down to 0.25 is a motion by Commissioner Spiz. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. I saw his hand first. Any discussion on it? For the same reason I was opposed to the first one, this doesn't solve the problem. The 0.35 is staff has developed a plan that fixes the problem that has frankly been around for the last decade and hasn't been fixed in the past. Commissioner Spiz, did you have want to speak to your?
Yes, I did. As I'd like to say, I mean, with what's going on in the country now, within the state, within our county, relative to economics, I don't believe now is a good time to be raising taxes. So that's why I made the amendment to 0.25. So I think that would be a good adjustment to get us back to where we were prior to the Headley rollback. It doesn't fully solve the problem, but it gets them closer to it. And then with some cuts within the Parks and Rec environment, I think we can get to where we need to be.
Right. I guess I don't want to get into a back and forth debate, but 0.25, just for the record for everyone, particularly my Republican members, it is a tax increase over what it currently is. So it's a slightly less proposal, a difference of $6. Excuse me, the difference of $10 on an average home reaching $200,000. But I will be voting no. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment. And if you're not speaking, can you please go on mute? I know there's getting some background noise. So if you're not speaking, please be muted.
On the Spiz amendment, Commissioners Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
No.
Markham,
No.
McGilvray,
No.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
No.
Spiz, Commissioner Spiz? I will come back to him. Taub,
Yes.
Whitebert,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
I see you, Commissioner Jackson. There you go.
I'm sorry, could you hear me?
I did not hear you, no.
I'll say no.
Thank you.
I'll say,
Spiz, did he come back on? Commissioner Spiz on your amendment?
Commissioner Spiz is on. I think he just had a technical connection. I saw him arrive. Commissioner Spiz, we're voting on your amendment. You're the last to vote.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 10 yeas, 11 nays.
An insufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution, the amendment fails. That brings us back to the main motion. Any further discussion on the resolution before us?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Gingell. Just a quick question.
I apologize. I passed over you. Commissioner Gingell, yes.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to determine if it was written in the language about cooperating with local municipalities, because I want to confirm Commissioner Markham's comments. Is the intention that if the city of Novi or city of Pontiac has a park, that they're interested in partnering with the county to take over, maintain, things of that nature, that the intention is to use millage funds to do that?
That the language, I think, is pretty clear. The supporting documentation that follows it, that's in the
But
packet.
is that the intention? I'm just trying to clarify the intention, because she mentioned what I thought I heard her say is exactly what I laid out.
that we might
No.
become in the business of taking over local city parks.
That is not the intention, and that's not what the proposal does.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Any further discussion? Commissioner Markham.
Mr. Chair, that's not exactly how I understood it to be characterized. I understood it to be that if there were projects that municipalities like Novi wanted to do, say, improve a trail or create a trail, that the county would be available to partner with them in potentially moving a project forward. Just like we already get grant funds from the state and that sort of thing. That's how I looked at this.
Thank you, Commissioner Markham.
You always have
Any
to
further
partner.
discussion? Commissioner Taub for a second time.
Yeah, I would suggest to Commissioner Markham that she talks to the people in our Economic Development Department, because we've created a lot of trails that way. We have people who are very, very efficient, very knowledgeable about creating trails, and that's how most of our trails were created. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Taub. And to that point, those people were involved in the development of this proposal, working with our park staff that got us the proposal that's before us for that very reason. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Kowal,
No.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
No.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
No.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Fizz,
No.
Taub,
No.
Wypert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson.
Yes.
Gingell,
No.
Hoffman,
No.
Jackson,
Yes.
Okendorfer.
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 13 yeas, 8 nays.
A sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. Moves us on to the next item on the agenda. Commissioner Lubes, is that all the things under Health, Safety, and Human Services? I believe it is. Correct.
Yes.
That concludes Commissioner Lubes' report. That brings us to Pandemic Response Recovery Committee. I'm gonna recognize Commissioner Gershenson. And we have one item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to introduce Board of Commissioners authorizing grant funding to implement Vocera touchless communication system to protect healthcare providers and patients at McLaren Oakland facility.
Commissioner Gersh, I believe we did this at the last meeting. Commissioner Gershenson moves the report, just to make sure in case I missed it, moves the report, seconded by Commissioner Wiper. All in favor, say aye and approving the report.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That moves us, Commissioner Gershenson moves, seconded by Commissioner Powell to move the resolution. I believe we have 2 amendments. So first I'm going to move, it's a budget amendment, moved by Commissioner Powell, seconded by Commissioner Gershenson. The amendment is written on page 117. This is the amendment of the resolution. I mean, it's the budget, to make sure the budget amendment is included with it. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The amendment is adopted. And I believe we have another amendment. Commissioner Spiz? Are you there, Commissioner Spiz?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just getting reset up, but
Oh, okay, no problem. How about I'll talk you through the formalities here.
Okay.
On page 118 is Commissioner Spiz has an amendment moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by. Is there a second to Commissioner Spiz's amendment?
Angel will second it.
Angel seconds the amendment. Commissioner Spiz, would you like to speak to your amendment?
Please remind me which topic we're on.
This is the McLaren.
Oh,
This is-
yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'd like to make an amendment to adjust the $260,000, I'm sorry, to $50,000. And the rationale is behind, I don't believe we as a government entity should be funding I'm gonna call it a system at this point, that for one hospital, I agree we should be giving them some money such as a grant, and later we'll be introducing a resolution on the topic to do that for more than just one location. So that's why I am recommending lowering it from $260,000 to $50,000.
I'm going to be voting against this amendment. This proposal is a result of our staff looking at ways to help support frontline workers. And this is a particular piece of equipment to improve net protection of healthcare workers, improving communication to better serve patients. And frankly, by doing this, it guts the whole proposal and it can't move forward. Also about this proposal, it leverages additional private funding in a match. And so we're able to stretch CARES funding further. And then lastly, we have supported other hospitals with grants that have been approved by this board. This is a worthy proposal that needs to advance. So I'll be voting no against this amendment. Commissioner Law on the amendment.
Oh, it's really not an amendment, so sorry, I'll wait.
All right. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the, hello? Okay, Madam Clerk, can you call the roll? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Taub on the amendment.
Yes, I will be supporting this because I have difficulties giving this much money to a single entity when there are other places that also have need. And also because it's going to be used in the entire hospital. We're not just funding COVID or intensive care beds, it's a hospital-wide system. So, and this is a private hospital, private nonprofit hospital. And I don't see, I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't see the exact meshing with putting a system in for the entire hospital. So I would like to have it, if I could have had it broken out, as to what it's costing per unit and how many units they have that are treating COVID patients in ICU units. That would have been much more helpful than unless you, Mr. Chair, have that information. Don't know. So that anyway.
Right. Thank you, Commissioner. Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
On the Spiz amendment, Commissioners Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
No.
Markham,
No.
McGilvery,
No.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
No.
Nelson,
No.
Powell,
No.
Quarles,
No.
Spiz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Whiteford,
Yes.
Woodward,
No.
Zach,
No.
Gershenson,
No.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
No.
Mr. Chair, you have 9 yeas, 12 nays.
Insufficient number voting in the affirmative, the amendment fails. It brings us back to the main motion before us and Commissioner Long. was in the queue. Commissioner Long.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. I just want to make sure other hospitals would have this opportunity to put in these systems if they come to us asking for some money also.
I guess, I mean, I would speak to that, and I know our staff has reached out to our hospitals to look for innovative ways to protect patients, protect frontline workers, and I think this board would be interested in entertaining those proposals as they come forward. Like I mentioned, we have already approved funding, and other hospitals have benefited from that, and I know I can speak for myself that I would be open to reviewing any proposal that comes forward.
Okay, and I was impressed that they raised some money to initiate the project also. So I would hope the other hospitals would follow that suit, and then maybe we could help them implement the system in some way too. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Whiteford, followed by Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Whiteford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that was a good question from Commissioner Long, who's a nurse. I'm on the pandemic and then economic response committee, and that question came up, and we welcome and want to help other hospitals and deal with this issue. And this county is committed to dealing with the virus and getting through this the best we can. And this is one way to do it. And it's going to protect the healthcare workers. It's going to save PPEs. They'll use a lot less PPEs to dealing with patients, and one other thing, this hospital in particular might have a lot of behavioral patients, without talking about the specific healthcare issues, but there's different wards with different issues, and to do things by voice versus having to suit up, glove up, mask up, and deal with the patient. They can deal with it by voice. So it's a good thing, and other hospitals are welcome to apply.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Whiteford. Commissioner Hoffman, followed by Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. I just have two questions. Can you tell me what other hospitals we might have given money to and how much we gave them? And how did we determine this amount is $250,000? Was that their request, or I'm just curious?
I don't have the full list in front of me. I know that staff and I can reach out to administration to help gather that. On the second point, I can say that the cost of this is a certain amount. They were able to go. The hospital was able to go find private funding for a certain portion, and this is the remainder that's necessary to get it.
Okay, one final thing. Is this money coming out of the CARES money of the $216 million we received from the feds?
Yes.
Okay. I'll take that as a yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Other hospitals are already equipped with this. If you've ever been in one of our hospitals, I know, I hate to say Crittenden because I don't remember the new name, Adam. You probably do. Or if you've been in Beaumont and you're in the hospital or the patient there, they can press a button and the nurse or staff will say, what is it that you need? And you'll say, I need some more water, or will you please help me change my sheets, or whatever. That is what we are basically putting in, a system so that the patient can communicate with the staff, and the staff doesn't have to enter the room more than once to fulfill the needs of the person, so the patient rather. And I think it's kind of strange that they don't have that system in there already. And I did speak to the lobbyist about that today. And she did say, yeah, other hospitals already have it in. So we probably won't have a request of this sort from any other hospital because they're already up and running with it and have been for many years. I was in the Providence Hospital with my brother before he passed away, and he just pressed the button. He was in ICU unit and pressed the button, and he asked for something, and they brought it. Wasn't so hard. So we are helping them not only with pandemic, but we're helping them way beyond pandemic. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Taub. Any further people who want to speak to this resolution? Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. if people read the information that was sent to us, this system is far more involved and far more advanced and whatever than has been mentioned tonight. It's communication with other medical people, medical staff. It's kind of hard to communicate when you're all masked up and everything. And this just makes it's a pretty comprehensive system, I believe. And once again, it's to protect our frontline workers and to prevent, save PPE and prevent transmission of COVID. That's the virus du jour, I guess. But it's definitely, I think, a good use of our funds to support the system. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cole. Any further comment on this resolution? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvery,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
We're meeting now. Virtual.
Yeah.
No.
Howell, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
No.
Cobb,
Yes.
Whitebert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn.
Yes.
Okay. I heard right, Mr. Chair, you have 20 yeas and 1 nay.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. I believe that concludes the pandemic committee, pandemic response and economic recovery committee, and that also concludes the regular agenda. That moves us to reports of special committees. There is none. Brings us a special order of business. I'll start with Commissioner Taub. Commissioner Taub.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Two of my motions I'd like to postpone. The first three, excuse me. But F I would like to vote on today, please. I know that we probably are not going to have school.
Okay, so Commissioner Taub, let me get through everything. We'll come back to that one real quickly.
Okay.
So you give notice to postpone A, D, and E under special order business and give notice to discharge it at the next meeting.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Kowal.
Mr. Chair, I think that Commissioner Kowal had to leave, but she asked me to indicate that she'd like to postpone.
Okay, I'm done. So without objection, notice discharge at the next meeting, and then the next one, Commissioner Kokendorfer, is yours.
I'd like to postpone mine as well, Mr. Chair.
All right, done. So without objection, notice to discharge in the next meeting. All right, that brings us back to item F, Commissioner Taub.
I think I'll postpone this till no, I won't. Okay, never mind. Yes,
Okay.
my motion is for the Board of Commissioners to put together a plan, obviously with the administration, to provide broadband internet access to the school children of Oakland County impacted by COVID-19 pandemic. When I first put this out, it seemed as if, well, gee, we've got everything, it's going to end and we'll be good. But it's not so good. And schools are deliberating as to whether they're going to have full-time, part-time, no time. I think we need to do something as a county. I know we have pandemic funds left. I certainly think we can use some of those funds for the children in the schools so that they all have broadband. And as a matter of fact, I think Commissioner Spiers, wherever you are, every now and again, you don't have broadband. It pops in and out. So, and so we do have pockets of places in our county, and I think we, as county commissioners, we ought to look into this and help our school children all have broadband. So I'm going to move this resolution.
So you are moving to discharge the resolution, seconded by Commissioner Whiteford. Further discussion on this. So let me speak to this. I mean, I don't think anyone disagrees about the need to address broadband issues, but it's more complicated than that. There are just fundamental access issues. So there's deployment of broadband, access to internet access, access to individuals who need anything. This resolution, as it's currently written, it's unclear who's doing it. And I mean, I guess I would pose to the sponsor of this, if we put on the agenda of the next pandemic committee, will you consider postponing action on this and invite Oakland Schools, which is a partner that we should probably be talking about. They've actually done a considerable amount of work on this, and we should figure out what that is. I don't know what as it's currently written, it says, 60 days to develop a plan, report back to, and I don't know who's supposed to do it.
Well,
So if we made it a topic for Oakland, I guess my question is, if we made this a topic of Oakland Schools to figure out what work has been out there in the committee.
Well, I had hopes, Mr. Chair, that we absolutely would include Oakland Schools, that we would include the executive office, include boards, people on the Board of Commissioners, to just come up with some kind of plan, because, this thing isn't going away in September, okay? And in addition to that, we also have a lot of students who are college students who live in areas where they're going to college online. I've got one grandkid going to college on, not from here. I think we need to look into this. I don't care how you do it, but it has to be taken up while we have this funding and as soon as we can. So however you want to do it, I think this is a necessity. So it can be rewritten. I'd be happy to rewrite it with some other people's ideas, but I absolutely feel that every child in this county ought to have access to broadband, period.
Well, may I invite you, if you want to refer it to, I think it's already in committee. I mean, I would be willing to commit to put this as a topic of conversation. At the next one or whatever the schedule that seems suited to you, to talk about all the work that's been done in this, and then figure out more concretely. Solving broadband issues in Oakland County is one question. Solving the needs of those who don't have access to internet in this pandemic school experience. Are you suggesting that we build a separate system? Do we, I think a lot of questions.
I don't know anything, okay, I don't know anything about it. I just know that people don't have it and they need it. It's real simple. We have a genius called Michael Spiz. He understands that better than I do.
No. Don't put me in that category, please. But I would recommend we invite the IT department up first.
Yeah, well, he's gonna figure all this stuff out. We're gonna put him on the seat. So if it's okay, I guess my question to you, Commissioner Taub, is that you withdraw your motion. We will put the topic on the next pandemic committee. And we can dig in a little bit deeper and see.
When will that be?
I think we have a meeting scheduled for Monday. We can reach out to Oakland Schools, see if they're available.
Okay, that would be
IT
fine.
also. IT should be there.
They can bring everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you. See, he's
Okay.
a genius.
So are you willing to withdraw your motion?
Absolutely, as long as I have your assurance that
You
we're going
have
to
my
take.
word. You have my word.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, not to rain on your parade, but apparently this issue was referred to the Human Services and Health Committee.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we'll put this topic on, and if we need a committee generated resolution to do something, we can do it. It'll be a topic on this committee. Or can we by board motion refer?
Mr. Chairman, you can refer committee resolutions.
How about this? Why don't we move this to the pandemic committee? I know Commissioner Taub is on the pandemic committee, so why don't we?
Thank you.
Commissioner Taub moves to have this item that's in health, a public health, safety, public services committee, to have it referred to the pandemic committee, and we will put it on the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Taub, seconded by Commissioner Whiteford. Okay, so supported by Commissioner Whiteford. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And it is adopted unanimously. Let the record reflect it's adopted now. That motion's adopted unanimously. Okay, good. Look at that. Making good public policy. Thank you, Commissioner Taub, for your help on that. Sorry, I just lost power on my agenda. 1 second. Give me a second. I think this brings us. How can I get to it? Here we go. Okay. I believe that, I mean, in terms of special, I took care of all the items that were under special order of business. That brings us to unfinished business. There is none. That brings us to new and miscellaneous business. How would the board like to do this? We could move all of the, we could move A through K. Those are all local partnership grant agreements. We can move all those together, or we can do them separately. So
I'll make that motion.
Yeah, I'll second. Move them A through K.
A through K. So moved by Commissioner Long, seconded by Commissioner Spiz, to suspend the rules to take up items A through K. All in favor of suspending the rules on those items, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Let the record reflect that the rules have been suspended to take up items A through K right now. If you're not on mute, please go on mute. And these are items, moved by Commissioner Long, seconded by Commissioner Spiz, to move all items A through K. These are items that are before us out of the work of the Oakland Together Local Partnership Grant Program that a number of our members serve on. Does anyone want to speak to it further? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on items A through K under proposed resolutions and introduction.
Love to. For items A through K. Commissioners Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Spiz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell, Commissioner Gingell? Okay, Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal? Oh, Kowal left. Kuhn,
Yes.
Long?
Yes.
Do we know if Gingell is coming back?
I'm checking.
Okay.
Thank you.
No response. I would just move on.
Okay.
Thank you. Then, Mr. Chair, you have 19 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting affirmative. All those resolutions are adopted. It's great to see those resolutions coming forward, and commissioners encouraged to have your local communities to get those grant applications in so that the oversight committee can do more work. That brings us to item L. That's L, right? Not item L. Commissioner Taub.
Okay, item L is a resolution to install a drop box for campaign finance reports at the Oakland County Elections Division building. I had some concerns because people are running in and out of that building. The staff doesn't know half the time who they are, even though they have an appointment, who knows? So I thought it would make it much easier for people during the pandemic. I have spoken with okay, so I'd like to move that, but and send it to which committee?
Pandemic Response and Economic Recovery Committee.
But we are also going to add some things in, hopefully, or amend it eventually. Maybe to do the following, to help clerks who do not have drop boxes, and perhaps to pay for the drop boxes that clerks have had to install, because of the pandemic. So
we will talk about it.
Looking at that.
So referred without objection to the Pandemic Recovery Response Committee, and we'll take it up at the next meeting as well. That moves to item M. This is a amendment. Do we have a sponsor of this one, Mr. Ward?
Have it down as you,
I'll
Mr.
sponsor
Chair.
it.
Yeah, but Commissioner Taub Commissioner Taub moves, seconded by Commissioner Gershenson. This is to suspend the rules, to take up this matter. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Rules are suspended, moved by Taub, seconded by Gershenson. This is, Mr. Ward, I think I sent this all around. This is an amendment to the rules, just given the standing committee responsibility of the coordinating zoning committee membership requirement, to make it easier for us to be able to have those meetings when coordinating zoning committee business actually happens. Pretty straightforward, but it just allows us to name the members that have been doing it to continue doing it. I don't know, Mr. Ward, is there any additional information?
Nope, I think you covered it well. Thank you.
Commissioner Taub.
Now that I'm supporting it. I have a
There you go,
question.
you're the author. Go ahead, Commissioner Taub.
I'm the author, yeah, whoopee. I have a quick question. Now, we've always had outside people on that committee, not outside, but we've had assessing and we've had planning and building, you know, that kind of thing. Are we still gonna have those members there, but they'll just be at a committee meeting?
Mr. Chair, if I could answer that, the CZC committee has always been supported by our economic EDCA department planning division, and they will continue to be so. This just removes the specific requirement that members from our Board of Commissioners be members of a specific standing committee. That'll give us a little bit more flexibility.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And those who've been doing it, we're asking you to continue to do it. Commissioner Whiteford.
I just wanted to follow up with what Chris Ward said. It was always under planning and building. And then we switched planning and building to ERG, economic growth. And then that switched to pandemic. And so it was always members of planning and building were on that. So it always had 3 commissioners as a committee supported by the executive reporting to us. So it just makes sense that with the current pandemic and the way the committees changed right away to make this more broad, that multiple commissioners could be on it from different committees. So that was the whole issue.
Correct. Thank you, Commissioner Whiteford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
The resolution, Commissioners Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Wypert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson.
Yes.
Did we get Ginchel back? No? Okay.
No, he won't be back.
Okay, thank you. Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Loops.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 19 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. That brings us to item N. I believe that's Commissioner Zach.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you need to, but the next item in your packet reaffirms the existing membership. It couldn't hurt to just add right in, have the members reaffirm their appointment.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Commissioner Zach, if you can hold just a second. Can we, it's the second item, the letter. Yeah, so can I get a motion to the appointees, that those who've been doing it, Commissioner Gwen Markham Chair, Commissioner Janet Jackson.
So moved.
Support.
Appears the chairman froze up there. I don't know if Commissioner Gershenson could.
Okay. Were there any more comments on this?
Sorry, I heard that it was moved by Spiz. I don't know who second.
McGilvery?
Thank you.
So we are taking a vote on this?
Yeah, it's just a voice vote.
Okay, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone against? Seeing no one against, the motion passes, the resolution passes. And we'll move on to N. Board of Commissioners urging Michigan State Police to reconsider its position on distributing proposal of the 2020 DNA capacity enhancement and backlog reduction grant. Can I get a motion? Commissioner McGilvery, support by Commissioner
be
Zach.
Be to suspend the rules, I believe, Madam Chair.
Okay. So can I get a
I'm back.
motion? All right, we're on suspending the
Sorry.
rules.
Suspending the rules on that item.
Yeah.
All in favor of all in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I think that was seconded by Commissioner Todd.
The what?
No, it was McGilvery and Zach.
That's fine. Let the record reflect that the rules have been suspended unanimously. Any discussion on this? Mr. Zach,
You need a motion on the resolution on itself, right?
We have Under Sheriff McCabe here that's probably can speak about it better than I can, and I'd like to defer to him if you don't mind.
Certainly. Under Sheriff McCabe, are you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, just very quickly, this is a DNA backlog grant. Last year, we came to an agreement with the state police. There's about 2.5 million, 2.2, I don't remember the exact number right, I don't have it right in front of me, that we qualify for the National Institute of Justice and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BGA, which will decide the amounts this year. Would like entities to come to an agreement before they submit their applications as to what the disbursement would be. There is a formula in place that they recommend using. We used it last year. The state police agreed to it after some discussion, and we got a little over $400,000, which helps fund 2 positions in the forensic lab in the DNA section, the biology section, so we can bring down the backlog on DNA cases, which we all know is very important. And this board fully supported building our lab for us. So there'd be a huge step back if our funding is cut. For whatever reason, the colonel of the state police did not respond to a letter the sheriff sent about 10 weeks ago. The sheriff called him about 3 or 4 weeks ago. He never got back to us until, and you've seen that letter until July 30th. And he told us they were going to cut, they would not agree to the formula and cut us tremendously. We're asking for your support of Commissioner Zach. I really appreciate what you're doing here. And I'd like to point out Commissioner Taub, give her credit too, because she really, way back when, helped us with this formula, as did the entire board. You were all very, very supportive over like many years. But we're asking for this so we can, tomorrow's the deadline. Tonight we submitted our application. BGAA will decide either A, no funding for the state of Michigan, or they will decide what they will give to the state police and to us. I could go on and on about this issue. I'm not going to, but we would appreciate your support on this and sending a message.
Thank you, Under Sheriff McCabe. Commissioner Hoffman.
Thank you, Under Sheriff McCabe, and I support this resolution, but I have a question. If in fact this funding does not come through, do we have any other opportunities to generate revenue in our, forensic lab, doing DNA testing for other people? I know we do it for some. I just wonder if there's more opportunity out there to make up the shortfall.
Yes, sir. We don't charge anybody, any of the locals, and quite frankly, we do have outside entities outside of Oakland County that come to us, and they come to us because the state police are so backlogged on other areas. One of the things we do, the reason we supply or help those outside entities is because we do draw federal funding for this lab. Therefore, it almost requires us to service those labs. We don't service those outside entities. We don't have to give them the same priority as inside agencies from Oakland County. We always take care of our 41, 42 other police agencies in Oakland County first. They always get first priority. But to answer your question, I don't see any other revenue stream, quote unquote, to bring into the lab.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Top.
Yes, I want to thank Commissioner Zach for bringing this to the forefront. I am absolutely appalled. We worked for years and years and years with more tests than you've ever seen through more agencies in the whole world to get this certification. We were determined in Oakland County that not one rapist would go free. We'd have that DNA for a robber or for a murderer. We have that capacity, and I am just ashamed. I have a question. Where does the state police, where do they fall? Are they under justice, the Justice Department? Are they under the?
Under the governor.
The state police has its own state department. State
What?
department has its own state department. State
Say that
department,
again?
state police has its own department.
Okay, but who's over it? It's either the legislature, the governor, or the courts.
The director reports to the governor, the legislature appropriates money.
Well, we have people there that I'm looking at right now who know the governor. This is a crime. And I know she does not want to have rapists go free. I don't even have to ask her, okay? I served with her. So let's see what we can do on this. I think it's terrible. And I'm ashamed that anybody would even want that to happen, or murderers, or any other bad people. Let's try child molesters. That would be a good one too. Let them go free.
Okay, all right.
I don't know who knows anything about this.
Somebody's got their.
Okay,
Somebody's
all
got
right. Any further discussion,
Mr. Chair.
clarification about what we're doing? Seeing none, I think there's broad consensus. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the resolution.
Mr. Chair, somebody's got. We can't hear. Somebody's running a radio or TV.
If you're not speaking, please be on mute.
I had that Zach moved it. I didn't have who seconded. I had for the passage.
Commissioner Todd will second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so on the resolution, Commissioners McGilvery,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Did you get that, Lisa?
yes, I did, thank you. Miller, Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Fizz,
Yes.
Taub,
Absolutely.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long, Commissioner Long? We don't see her anymore. Okay, Lubes,
Yes.
Markham?
Yes.
Do we know if Long is coming back or?
Most likely not.
I don't see them.
Okay. Mr. Chair, you have 18 yeas, no nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. That brings, we have like 3 additional items. These are just referrals. I'm gonna move that Commissioner Hoffman's gonna move to establish the Oakland County minimum foreclosure standard policy and refer it to special committee to investigate county treasurer's management of property foreclosures, referred without objection. Commissioner McGilvery, I believe you have a resolution. Commissioner McGilvery and Spiz. Commissioner McGilvery?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
For the package. That's it. It's a resolution to create a plan, go out for bid relative to a training center and
an updated EOC for the sheriff's office. Refer to Health and Services, I believe.
Health, Safety, and Human Service, correct. Referred without objection. And there's one, I think, Commissioner Spades, you have one more.
Yes, I have one that is relative to, exact wording, if I can find it. Give me 1 second. Creation of an Oakland County Healthcare Providers Grant Program, and I refer to the Pandemic and Response Committee.
Referred without objection. Okay, I believe that's all the resolutions. Are there any additional resolutions that need to be referred to committee?
I have one.
Commissioner Jackson.
Thank you. I have one, and it is kind of beyond the date of the action that took place. It's in reference to the Grace case that our court had come under a lot of scrutiny about, a judge in our courts, and I want to refer this to, I think it'll be, what committee best aligns with the court?
It would be the health, that's health services.
Okay. All right, I want to refer this to Health and Human Services. And then anybody else who might want to add their name to it, are welcome.
Refer without objection. I apologize, Commissioner Jackson, for skipping over that. I had that flagged. Is there any other resolutions? Seeing none, that moves us to announcements. Are there any announcements? Seeing no announcements, we will adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on August 20th at 5 p.m. or at call of the chair. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Good evening. Thank everyone. Have a